We've heard there's supplies in the area.
Okay, so
Uniform
where do
scoping.
I start?
Watch each other's backs.
Maybe I'll start with the usual hello guys, what's up or something. I don't know. Or I'll just keep talking until I get to the end of what I'm gonna say or what I have to say, after playing The Last of Us Part 2, which I just completed a couple of hours ago as I speak. Actually, it's my second playthrough on Survivor Plus, and I actually achieved the Platinum Trophy. It's much easier on Game Plus considering you'll have all the weapons available and ready at the start of the game. Today is the 30th of June 2020, and I'm recording this on my iPhone, talking to myself like an idiot, trying to capture my raw emotions while they're fresh, because probably in a week's time I will have totally forgotten about them, and then everything will have been weird and dishonest and pointless. So here I am. In all probability, you will disagree with me with what I'm about to say. Anyway, I'm not about 100% sure if you'll even get to hear any of this. I'm just recording this for my own personal use and probably delete it later when I'm sober. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Just in case I don't and I eventually make this voice memo public, please bear in mind that this is my honest opinion, which everybody who is ever a fan of The Last of Us is entitled to. I'm going to assume that those of you who are listening to this recording have already beaten the game. However, if you're listening to this and you have yet to beat the game, or at least if you didn't watch the series of live broadcasts of my playthrough of the game, then let me warn you in advance that there will be heavy spoilers ahead. I suggest you stop this very moment and continue playing until you get to the end and maybe come back later. Then again, if you have already beaten the game, keep listening. Okay, so what did you guys think of the game? Talk to me, anything goes. A penny for your thoughts. As long as it is The Last of Us related. Come on guys, don't hold back, because I won't. I guess we can all agree that at least the game is graphically advanced with insane attention to detail. We can't compare part 2 with the first game considering that one was originally made for the PS3. But I'm not here to discuss the graphical superiority of The Last of Us Part 2. I'm here because I want to address that one decision by Naughty Dog regarding the series' original protagonist only a few hours into the game. Yeah, that one. There's no use beating around the bush. That scene is brutal. It's cold-blooded. What's the word? Unbefitting, ironic, incongruous, and callous. Yeah, I'm talking about the murder of Joel. I know we have no control over Joel's demise because Joel, as it turns out this time around, is not a playable character. Well, he is briefly playable at the start of the game, riding a horse and playing his swan song for Ellie, and that is it. I don't know about you guys, but his delivery of the song gave me the shivers, like some kind of harbinger of something bleak and hopeless. And little did I expect that something bleak and hopeless was gonna be his untimely demise. That's understandable, or is it? Considering that the world of The Last of Us, at least in the first game, as we were fooled to believe, is not only about Joel but also about a girl named Ellie. So what makes that story work? I'll tell you in a minute. First, let's talk about part 2. We'll get to it. Let's talk about part 2. Joel, a major character, is killed off. The main character in the first game, whom a lot of us, including myself, identify with because he's like most of us. I know he's just a fictional character. I'm not forgetting that. But the reason this game is special and relatable, at least to me, is mostly because of this one character, Joel. Joel is us. He is us. Joel represents us. Joel embodies our weakness, our despair, our pain, our tendency to resort to violence in order to protect our loved ones. He is more or less a reflection of our humanity. He is the answer to the question, what would you do when your child's life is on the line? He is the answer when you are forced to choose between your child's life and the world. What would you do? Yes, he is a flawed character. He is flawed and conflicted. He is not what we would call a hero. He's just being a father trying to save his surrogate daughter. What he is forced to do, killing everyone in the hospital, isn't the right thing to do. No, it's not the right thing to do, but it is the human thing to do. And to me, that's what makes the story of The Last of Us work. That's what it's all about. And yet, all of that amounted to nothing because he is killed off just like that in the second game. Just imagine if the game was made like Detroit Become Human or Heavy Rain, where you actually have choices in the game and every choice you make can lead to a different outcome. Just imagine if you had the choice of not having to kill the doctor who's trying to dissect Ellie's humanity, including the doctor and his daughter's life, Abby, can be saved. And when you play the second game, remember that moment in the game when Abby and his father are discussing about the right thing to do. And Abby tells her doctor father that killing Ellie is the only way and therefore the right thing to do. Because, according to her, if it were her in Ellie's place, she would have wanted it. Except that Ellie isn't her. Abby isn't Ellie. She's not Ellie. So, it is easy for her to say. And on top of that, Ellie has not the faintest idea. She doesn't have any idea that she's going to die in the process. And why the rush? Why sedate her while she is already unconscious when they can at least wait for her to wake up and explain to her what is going to happen so she can make her own decision. Instead, they drug her unconscious while she's already unconscious. And they're actually going to operate on her immediately without her consent. That to me is worse than what Joel does as a result. The doctor, her daughter Abby, and the rest of the Fireflies know from the start what's going to happen to Ellie. Therefore, their intent to kill her is premeditated, that they're going to take her life with or without her consent, so they, as the rest of society, can live. Joel, on the other hand, when he learns from Marlene what's going to happen to Ellie, his actions are spontaneous. We have to understand Joel. We have to understand the father. Yes, Ellie isn't Joel's real daughter, but Joel is a lost soul. He lost his humanity after the death of Sarah. He's been lost for 20 years, trying to find something to fight for. That's his maxim, by the way. When he tells Ellie that no matter what, they keep finding something to fight for. Remember that conversation between Joel and Ellie in part 1? No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. So when Joel finds Ellie, he finds himself in that something to fight for. Ellie is Joel's second shot at life. The moment Joel saves Joel's life, the moment Ellie saves Joel's life, and many times after that first one, that is it. Joel becomes a father again. He realizes his love for Ellie. Ellie becomes his daughter. That's their bond. Isn't that what the whole The Last of Us is all about? And what choices does Joel have when he sees the doctor and the nurses on the verge of murdering his baby girl? Put yourself in Joel's shoes in that particular moment. What would you do? I would do what any father would. Also, keep in mind that the doctor holds Joel at knife point as well, trying to hold Joel off from saving Ellie. I know it isn't right when Joel kills everyone in the hospital, but like I said, what he does may not be the right thing to do, but is the only human thing to do. Besides, it will kill him to think that, yeah, they will have saved the world and humanity. But what kind of life will he have after that? To live in a world without Ellie, and knowingly allowing another daughter to die when he can do something about it this time. He knows he can't live with that, and so he does the unthinkable. He does what he must do. And to quote him in the game, I saved her. I saved her. That's what Joel told Tommy at the start of part 2. I saved her. That's what fathers do. It's the human thing to do. I know Naughty Dog is trying to justify Abby's actions as well by forcing players to play half of the game through her eyes. How many times does Abby tell her friends in the game that Joel deserved to die? She was like a broken record, as if they're trying to inject the idea into her subconscious so we can say, oh, it's okay. And this happens like, 5 or 10 minutes after Joel saves her from a fate worse than death. You see what's wrong here? This woman is directly a part of a plot 4 years ago to kill Ellie, so she and her father could live. They even force the players, us, to play as her while we try to kill Ellie. So Ellie becomes the bad guy this time. I have no words for this. Insensitive, I guess. Again, I'm not forgetting that this is just a work of fiction, and that Naughty Dog did what they had to do for the sake of storytelling and money making, I guess. But boy, they should have ended the story of The Last of Us in part 1. That is one hell of a story. Joel could have died in the first game, and that would have been completely okay because it would have given his death more meaning and more sense. But to make another game based on the first one and treat the protagonist of the first game, which was Joel, like some garbage by killing him off in a meaningless fashion and force us to play by controlling the person responsible for his death, is just off. It can't be for nothing, as Ellie used to say, and yes, they have made the first game feeling hollow and pointless with the sequel, at least for us who loved and were touched and moved by the first game. For all intents and purposes, there's only one The Last of Us, and that's the first game. The end. There's no The Last of Us Part 2. This is a completely different game. This is a completely different game. It's just a spin-off of the first game. A spin-off-ish, I should say. And you know what? As I come to think about it, after my second playthrough, the best way to play and experience The Last of Us Part 2, I guess, is if you haven't played The Last of Us, I mean the first game. So there are no strings attached, if you get my drift. If you're new to the game, if you're new to the series, don't play the first game, just go straight to Part 2, it doesn't matter. I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference, and that way it would allow Part 2 to make more sense considering the emphasis on Abby. You won't get disappointed or your heart devastated by the meaningless and tasteless death of the protagonist you've come to identify yourself with because you're a grieving father like Joel. I know at some point that you must have lost someone dear in your life, so you know what I'm talking about. Or simply because you're also a father and you would go through any lengths for your child. So you get my point. I seem to get why they combine two stories in one game with two different point of views, that is Ellie's story and Abby's story. It's just like the Left Behind DLC where you play as Ellie and whose story coincided with the events of the main storyline. The Last of Us Part 2 would have been a shorter game if Naughty Dog decided to follow only Ellie's story and made Abby's coinciding story as a DLC. But then Naughty Dog must have realized that Abby's DLC story would prove to be a hard sell considering what they did to the main story, or for that matter, the legacy of the original game The Last of Us. Therefore, they put two stories in one game, and DLC be damned. One thing's for sure though, The Last of Us Part 2 is not The Last of Us. Not by a long shot. The Last of Us Part 2 is a second-rate, spin-off, trying so hard to imitate the formula of the first game, to recreate its success. I'm sorry guys, that's my opinion, and my unqualified verdict. And I won't be surprised if they make another game and call it The Last of Us Part 3, which follows further the adventures of Abby and Lev. Any takers? Nah, you see, I'm a huge fan of Naughty Dog, but if this is a third game, I just hope they don't call it The Last of Us Part 3 if they're only going to make Ellie look like the bad guy or bad in general. Because The Last of Us is a story of Joel and Ellie. Period. One thing I want to be clear with though is that I don't hate the game. It's just that it's a little bit disappointing, that's all. And so with this, I'm gonna leave a quote from Joel himself, or rather his voice actor, Troy Baker. When asked about The Last of Us Part 2, he said, "I don't know whether people are gonna hate it or they're gonna like it, but they definitely will not be ambivalent about it." Well, one thing I can only say about this is, you're right, Troy. You're right.
I'm all done. Let's go. Watch my ass. You're good to go. Uniform down! Shotgun, you fucking watch it! That fucker's dead! Give me a sec. Good to go. Good to go. Set the bomb. Watch your ass. I'm hurt. I'm hurt. One down. Keep him coming. Dead. Dead. Tourist! Uniform down! Oh, shit! Down one tourist! Let's see him take this. Watch it! Smoke! Those tourists are fucking done. See if they try that again anytime soon.